Is it time for a self-retighten? Stay tuned and find out. But there are 5 reasons that I'd like to share with you later. If you're new here, welcome. And I'd also like to say a thank you, big thank you, to all of my new subscribers. Hello, this is Love Those Locks, the channel where I help you care for your hair, especially for the lady of a certain age. In a previous video, I made some very bold statements about reasons not to do a self-retightening, but I had a change of heart, and I'm going to share some more details with you about why I had that change of heart and what happened. Now, before I go on, I just wanted to make the point that in no way, in anything that I'm going to say, am I belittling the work of a Sisterlocks consultant. It is a highly skilled area of work which calls for a lot of attention to detail, a lot of manual dexterity to spend all day doing the rotations, and a lot of time and dedication going on training and also building up that client list. So I just wanted to make that point before going on. And my point is, though, that with all of that regrowth and with everything that's been happening in the world and not really knowing when I'd be able to go along for the next retightening, I just felt that I couldn't wait any longer. So I decided to dive in, and I used the Easy Lock tool. It's the only tool that I have, so I used it. And I spent, I don't know how many hours in total I spent because I didn't keep a log, unfortunately, but I did finish my retightening about 2 weeks ago. And I would typically sit for 2 hours at a time, and using a 3-way mirror and a long mirror at the back and lots of clips, and I'd sit for 2 hours at a time and then do the retightening by clipping away adjacent locks. It went quite well, and some interesting results which I'll share later. The first thing I realised is that retightenings don't have to be painful. And what I mean by this is that in doing my retightnings, I've got a very tender scalp, I'm very tender-headed, and whenever I handle my hair, I do so very, very gently, especially when I'm dealing with the very fragile hairline. And what I did was I'd sit down for, say, 2 to 3 hours at a time to do the retightening, and I would handle each lock very carefully. And I found that by doing it in that way, slowly and carefully, and also paying attention to how tight I was doing it, so I wasn't getting in that extra rotation. There were a couple of times where I did and then realised just as I was pulling it through how tight it was, so I didn't do that again. So that meant that I was able to make sure that overall I wasn't experiencing any pain. The other thing about retightening not being painful, I felt, was because I wasn't having all of my scalp, all of the hair done at the same time. I'd spend a couple of hours and then the next evening another couple of hours. It just felt as though, because all of my hair wasn't being retightened in one sitting, it was being spread out over a number of days, that all of my scalp wasn't being subjected to the retightening action of the pulling through. And I think that that contributed to there not being as painful as it would necessarily be otherwise if it were all done in one sitting. I'm more invested in my Sisterlocks. Now, what do I mean by that? So often when we talk about an investment, we think about it in terms of money and time. But by investment here, I mean just fully invested in the process. So what I found, that the action of going through and retightening all of my Sisterlocks over that long period of time, that I felt closer to them and more in tune with the process of retightening my Sisterlocks and actually being in touch with what was happening with them, rather than, say, going off and delegating that responsibility to somebody else. Just that feeling of feeling closer with being involved in the formation of the locks and having an active part in that process. And the best analogy that I can think of for that is, say, in your day job, you find that there are lots of other areas on the periphery. They're not, strictly speaking, part of your job. They're not in your job description. But you do find that if you then stray into these other areas, doing those other tasks enriches your core job. And that's what I mean by that investment, feeling that the process of going on that journey with Sisterlocks has been enriched by me actually being involved in retightening. I'm not saying that I want to do it all the time, but it's enriched my enjoyment of this journey. I've unveiled the mystery of retightnings. Now, I don't know about you, but I found that the entire process of retightnings was shrouded in mystery. What would happen is I'd book my appointment, I'd go along, sit down, have a chat, have a nap, and then when it was all done, I would then head off and go about my day-to-day business and not really give the process a second thought. But now that I've actually experienced it, I've learned a lot more. I'm not saying that I'm an experienced loctician, Sisterlocks consultant. I'm not experienced, but having gone through that retightening, it's made me a lot more appreciative and understanding of what exactly goes on. So I know the difference between a 3-point rotation and a 4-point rotation, and that I have a 3-point rotation. And that means that that's information that I'm armed with and can use in the future. I've started to take more notice of my scalp. Now, generally speaking, looking at my scalp isn't something that I would do in day-to-day life, but as part of the retightening process, in clipping back on Sisterlocks to then do the retightening of each one, I was forced to actually look at my scalp and see it. And it's not something, as I say, that I've done routinely before, but it's something that I've become more aware of through doing the retightening. And it's certainly something that I think I'm going to incorporate into day-to-day life, at least once a week, have a look and check for any signs of dryness or irritation so that I can do something about those sorts of things that I may spot then, rather than those things becoming greater problems down the line, because as we know, having a healthy scalp is extremely important for healthy hair, healthy Sisterlocks. I'm feeling less fearful, and what I mean by that is, whereas before the retightening process was shrouded in mystery, I was also overcome with all sorts of fears. What if I couldn't afford my retightenings anymore? What if I couldn't get to my consultant? What if my consultant wasn't able to do the retightening? All sorts of fears would come to me. But now that I've done the retightening, I feel a lot more reassured. I mean, what if the lockdown continued or came back again once it is lifted? So now that I have gone through that process, as I say, I feel a lot more reassured, and having experienced it, it's something that I'd be happy to do again if I needed to. That's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in, but now over to you. Have you done a self-retightening recently? If so, please share comments below. I make videos every week, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and share it. And to make sure that you don't miss out on future videos, please subscribe and remember to hit that notifications bell so that you receive a notification the next time I post a video. Thank you. Of Sisterlocks, and lost my train of thought there. Yes, I've made a few mistakes, and I know that these are mistakes that my loctician, Sister Love, flipping heck, put my teeth back in. Is it time for a self-retighten?